Yo, how's it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down Podcast and our first Inside Enemy Territory podcast. Today I'm joined by my co-hosts Parth and Jaylen. How you guys doing?
Good.
And then we have a special guest today. We've got a Seahawks fan here from the Seahawks Network. We've got Nicholas here. You can check out his Instagram. His social media will be in the description. But how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man.
Awesome. I appreciate you coming on, man. It's pretty late at night, so I appreciate it. Or at least pretty late. Wow, I can't speak. Pretty late at night in the Chicagoland area, so I appreciate you hopping on. But as I say in most of our podcasts that we do here, most of our stuff isn't scripted. But in these episodes, we're gonna try to get Nick, I guess, to tell us a bit about the Seahawks, and we're also going to have, I guess, just like a panel of fans from other teams on every week, depending on who the Bears are playing. So we're gonna have a guest speaker on every week for this show. Man, I don't know where to start. I don't know too much about the Seahawks, but I'm gonna pass it over to you, Nick, if you don't mind. Speak a bit on their week one. Obviously, you know they lost a lot of players in the offseason, but if you wouldn't mind just speaking about them overall in general for a second.
Yeah, so we're going into a rebuild ourselves. Lost key players like Richard Sherman, Michael Bennett, and we're just trying to, I think, more so get younger. So week one, we played a solid game.
They played the Denver Broncos week one.
Yeah, the Broncos, we couldn't stop on defense.
You know, it was weird. If you mind, if I don't interrupt for a second, I was looking at the stats from that game before we hopped on here, and I saw Keenum. He had a really interesting game because he threw 3 interceptions. I think 2 of those were to Earl Thomas, but then he also had a really good job punching the ball in himself, and the Broncos put up a good bit of points on you guys, from what it seemed.
They put up a good number of points. I mean, thank goodness we had Earl Thomas. Imagine if we didn't.
Yeah.
Lord knows. But McDougal had 2 interceptions himself in the secondary. Earl had 1.
Okay.
Frank Clark had a sack, but we want to get more pressure. I think Pete Carroll's more focused on the pressure this week and actually finishing.
Yeah. So
but on offense, we played a solid outing. Will Disley is a name that actually really showed up last week.
How about Chris Carson?
Marshall, I think we'll see more of him this week, more so since Doug's out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's going to be interesting. We're up for the challenge because we know Bears got Khalil Mack, and, I mean, we just played Von Miller, so we're getting ready.
Similar test, yeah. One thing I would One thing I would like to say, and Jaylen and Parth, you guys can chime in if you want to as well. When you look at the Seahawks, obviously you see they're missing a lot of pieces that they had last year. And as far as their offense goes, you got Brandon Marshall back in Chicago, probably looking for some sort of revenge on the Bears because we honestly, I think we did him pretty dirty when he was in Chicago, along with Jay Cutler. But, I mean, Jaylen and Parth, you guys saw how they performed last week, which wasn't obviously the greatest. Do you think they'll have a bounce-back week this week against the Seahawks?
Definitely. I feel like Khalil Mack and Roquan Smith are going to be both playing all game, I'm hoping, which will lead to a lot more
just pressure on the quarterback.
Pressure, more like, just better coverage and everything. So I feel like, and Kyle Fuller's going to have a bounce back game. I feel like he's going to be like, because after having an off year, he bounced back really good last year. I feel like he's going to have that really good bounce back game. Mm-hmm. I say he picks off Russell Wilson at least once this game.
And Nick, if you don't mind, you guys have Tyler Lockett, your number 2 receiver, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where it worries me, man. Because you see Prince Amukamara last week against a speedy guy like Randall Cobb, and you think, dang, right. Tyler Lockett is exactly like Randall Cobb, and he was just burning Amukamara all day. So that's something that, I mean, just worries me a little bit. Jaylen, do you have anything to say as far as initial thoughts about the Seahawks, what you think about them?
Basically, like what you guys said, how they did lose a lot of talent. The Legion of Boom is not there anymore, and it might end at the trade deadline. but I feel like the Seahawks are still they're not as great as they were when they were winning Super Bowls, but they lost all their dudes very early in the season. Still managed to go 9-7. Only reason they didn't make the playoffs is because they lost to the Atlanta Falcons in one of the weeks. But I feel like they're still a decent team. When you have a quarterback like Russell Wilson who can make plays with his feet and his arm,
right?
Just the way he escapes the pocket and expands the plays is unbelievable. So even if they have a trash roster, just like the Packers, their roster was garbage. But if you have a quarterback like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, the team is going to be look good. So.
Yeah, and that's the main guy, really. And you also have a guy on defense like Bobby Wagner. That's another key part on the defense as well, elevating younger guys like Shaquille Griffin and Shaquem and, all the other players.
Yeah, when you think about it, when you look at the Bears last week, and Nick, I'm not sure if you watched the primetime game. Obviously, the 20-point comeback by the Packers in that second half. When I look at that game, I really look at the Bears' inability to force pressure on the quarterback in the second half, right. And that's something that we're going to have to do with Russell Wilson because he obviously, unlike Aaron Rodgers, he can make some good throws. Maybe not as good of throws as Aaron Rodgers was making on the Bears. He was making some pretty great passes, but with Wilson, the threat comes where he can run the ball as well. So I think someone that's going to have to definitely step up for the Bears this week is Leonard Floyd. He did really not do anything last week, but I'm sure if we keep Khalil Mack in more, which I assume he'll be in more as he's starting to learn the playbook and progress through that defense. Akeem Hicks, I just see this Bears front seven, I guess, being unstoppable. But I'm going to pass it over to you now, Nick, if you wouldn't mind. I guess just we just kind of gave our thoughts on the Seahawks. If you wouldn't mind, just let me know what you think about the Bears coming into this week.
I say we're more focused on, actually protecting Russell Wilson because, over the past, we had struggled mainly on the offensive line ever since Max Unger left. It's been totally terrible. With the addition of Dwayne Brown.
I was about to say, you guys took him from the Texans last year, right? Yeah.
And mainly we're looking for a good solid game for Jermaine Ifedi because he's totally struggled a lot normally, but we're just hoping he holds up. And we got to take care of Khalil Mack and get him out of the game,
Yeah, totally.
And mainly, since Doug's out, we got to, I think Tyler Lockett will be good in the slot. He'll move into the slot, and we'll maybe have a good game for him as well.
Yeah, one thing I would like to do, and this is something inspired by the Bears brothers. If you guys don't know them, I'll link their channel in the description. They're a bigger Bears podcast, and I actually went to see them live last week in St. Charles, Illinois. But one thing they did is they were with the Packers. They were comparing kind of like I guess it was like position matchups where they were comparing like the Bears passing game versus the Packers secondary. So I kind of want to do that here. I'm going to pass this around the table, and you kind of have to take a vote. All of us can on each kind of comparison that I'm about to shout out that I wrote down. But obviously, I think when you think of the Legion of Boom and what they still have left, it seems like they have some pretty good run stoppers, and you think about how they added Shaquem Griffin.
Right.
So I'm going to toss this one out there. I'm going to pass it to you first, Parth. Who do you think will be more successful on Monday night? The Bears' run game or the Seahawks, I guess, just like front seven?
The Seahawks front seven.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's going to be one of those days where like the run game doesn't get, just doesn't do that well. I could be totally wrong here, but I feel like this is going to be a day where like Trubisky is going to be forced to throw that ball downfield.
Yeah. I'm gonna pipe in here. I'm gonna give mine. I'm gonna also pick the Seahawks front seven on that one. We do have good running backs, but obviously, as you saw last week, Trubisky wasn't able to vertically throw the ball. And I'm not trying to give a little spoiler alert, but one of my next ones coming is going to be Trubisky and the Bears wideouts versus Seattle's cornerbacks. And I feel like we can take advantage of that this week. So I'm going to give an early preview into who I'm choosing for that one, but I feel like if Trubisky stretches the ball down the field this week, we'll win the game. But Jaylen, Bears running game versus Seahawks front seven.
It's gonna be a clean sweep. I'm gonna go with the Seahawks D line.
Yeah.
But I pray to God I am wrong. But for the sake of this video, I'm gonna go with the Seahawks front seven.
Okay. What do you got, Nick? I think I know what you're picking.
Yeah, see, week 7, we want to put emphasis on stopping the run, and that's what we're going to focus on as far as this week in practice, but I do expect a pretty solid game for Jordan Howard.
Totally. Yeah, man. He was pretty good last week against Green Bay. He was pretty reliable. But next one, I'm going to flip to the Seahawks offense. I'm going to go with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks receivers versus the Bears secondary. Obviously, you know that the Seahawks are missing some pieces in their passing game. But, obviously, normally if this were before the season, I would 100% pick the Bears secondary. But after seeing how poorly they performed against Green Bay, it's kind of like a 50-50 one for me. But, Parth, what do you think? Russell Wilson or the Bears secondary?
I'm going to go with Bears secondary.
Okay.
I feel like, yes, they did have a bad week 1, but the secondary depends a lot on the pass rush. So if the pass rush does really good and gets Russell Westbrook uncomfortable,
Russell Wilson.
then Russell Wilson, man.
Dude, I've made that mistake before, too. I've made that mistake before, too. All right.
My bad. But, I feel like Wilson can have, he threw, 2 picks against the Denver Broncos, and their secondary isn't as good anymore, but they got a good pass rush. So that made the difference for them to get 2 interceptions, and I feel like the Bears could do the same.
All right, I'm also going to go with the Bears secondary. I think Kyle Fuller's going to step up this week after dropping the game-winner interception last week. I think he definitely has a call to answer, and he got paid a ton of money this offseason. I think the key will be less emphasized on shutting down Brandon Marshall, because I think Fuller will be able to do that on his own. I think the emphasis will be on shutting down Tyler Lockett. He's just a super speedy guy. He reminds me of a Randall Cobb, someone who's made some big catches over the years, and someone who might be a bit hard to contain if he starts making some catches and gets on a roll. Jaylen, what do you think on that one?
Well, if you said Russell Wilson versus the Bears secondary, I'd probably go Russell Wilson.
Okay, excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Bears. I mean by that, I mean like Russell Wilson and the Seahawks receiving corps versus. I'm kind of asking who's going to come out more successful on that end.
I'm gonna go with the Bears secondary. Last game, the Bears for the first half, the Bears secondary was amazing. We held Devontae Adams to 2 catches for 20 yards. He didn't get all them yards until the second half, where basically the whole team shut down. So we didn't have a bad game. We had a bad second half, but I feel like Parth said, we can bounce back. We're basically, this whole team is looking for redemption. This whole season, all they're going to think about is blowing a 20-point lead to the best skilled quarterback in the league, and I feel like they're always going to keep that on their shoulder until we beat him whatever week we play him at home. So I feel like we're just going to come in and try to avenge that
totally
that breakdown.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Nick, who you got in that one?
I'm kind of 50-50 on this one, because it's going to be hard to what to expect, because this coming off Bears secondary, they struggled a little bit against the Packers, but for Seattle, it's kind of questionable to what to expect, but
totally.
It's a tough one. I'm going to have to go. I'll go with the Bears.
Okay.
Because Fuller should be good.
Yeah.
I don't know what to expect with Marshall. Maybe he'll put up some touchdowns. I hope, but we'll just have to see. It should be a pretty interesting matchup, though.
Totally. Yeah. It's interesting because normally you expect a bit better out of the Bears secondary, and it's a weird week for the Seahawks. So that's kind of it's really just a toss up across the board. but I'd give the Bears a slight edge in this one. I got one more matchup for you guys, and this is probably going to be the matchup that ends up determining the game. I mentioned it earlier with Trubisky not being able to vertically stretch the field last week against the Packers, and that ending up possibly costing us the game. I'm going to go Mitchell Trubisky and the Bears receiving corps against a pretty good Seahawks secondary with Earl Thomas and some other decent players. Parth, who you got in that one?
I definitely got my boy. I'm never going to go against my boy. That's like, I can't do that. I have a whole page on that guy. But, like, honestly, I feel like this is his game. Monday Night Football, his career started on Monday night. I feel like it's not going to end on Monday night. Let's not hope that.
Chase Daniel coming in week 3 against Arizona.
But I think he's going to... A little prediction: 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's definitely bold because. But I'm gonna also go with Trubisky and the Bears receiving corps. When he threw to Allen Robinson last week, just a couple times, it worked out really well. Man, I just need a bounce back game from Trey Burton. Trey Burton did not look good last week at all. Anthony Miller was pretty good. He was reliable. Gabriel, you can't run Gabriel. I understand that the Bears want to run Gabriel on these screen passes because he's super fast, but you got to give him some shots downfield. I'm hoping that the Bears will look to throw to their playmakers more this game rather than kind of just do 5-yard dump-offs and screen passes. I'm going to slightly give the edge to the Bears in this one. I'm going to trust Trubisky. Man, I don't know about 3 touchdowns, but I will say I did like Trubisky's ability last week just to extend plays on his own and make some passes happen that he wouldn't have been able to do last year as Parth holds up his Trubisky phone case. Look at my phone case if you could see it in the top corner. I got the Mac Attack on there. Yeah, so I'm going to take Trubisky in that one over the Seattle secondary. Who you got in that one, Jaylen?
It was hard.
It is hard.
I'm a Bears fan. I'm gonna go with the pretty boy assassin. I'm gonna go with Trubisky. I don't think he can throw 3 touchdowns. I would love for Trubisky to throw 3 touchdowns, but as long as he doesn't throw any interceptions, I don't want turnovers. Turnovers
he was good last week, not turning the ball over.
Especially when you shorten the field for Russell Wilson, it doesn't lead to very good outcomes. So no turnovers.
Okay, and then who you got in that one, Nick?
I'm gonna go with my Hawks, man. You know why?
Why?
Justin Coleman in the slot. He was one of the top slot corners at his position according to Pro Football Focus. We have
dude, you're pulling out Pro Football Focus on us. Okay, that means we're getting statistical if you're pulling Pro Football Focus out on us. I like that.
I'll pull some out of Pro Football Focus too then.
Yeah.
Last year, Trubisky was ranked the best first quarter quarterback. And I think that carried on to this season too, man. That first quarter was...
Russell Wilson's called
There's
Mr.
still 3 more quarterbacks.
Quarter.
I think Matthew Stafford's called Mr. Fourth Quarter if I have to. Not this week, though. Not this week, though.
Last game.
Okay.
Okay. Anyways, back to Nick talking.
We have Earl Thomas, who had an interception, and he really puts a stamp in the secondary. I think Shaquille Griffin's a guy who I think will have a pretty solid game himself because he had a low passer rating was sort of equal to Sherman's himself. And Trey Flowers, he's a rookie, but we're hoping he has a pretty solid game too on the other side. But it should be a good game. We have Bradley McDougald in on the other side, so I think we could hold up if all we got to do is control Trubisky and make sure he doesn't complete any passes, and we should be good.
Yeah. And then finally, the last thing I want to do is we can't share our predictions yet, Nick, because we do that on our pregame show on Saturdays. But I would like to hear from you. How do you think this game will end up?
I'm going to say 2024 Hawks.
Hey, we can't say anything. We can't say anything until Saturday. That's gonna pretty much do it, man.
I just want to know, since you have them winning, why will they win? And why
fair enough.
Why will the Hawks win and why would they lose?
You said what?
Like, why would the Hawks win and how would the Hawks lose?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. What what will lead them to victory? What important influencer or just influential factor will lead them to victory? And if something doesn't go well for the Seahawks, what can eventually lead them to losing the game?
Okay, I'm gonna start off with lose.
Okay.
I'm going to say fourth quarter, not stopping the run.
Okay.
And win, Russell Wilson. I mean, because I think he's going to lead a comeback in the fourth quarter. But we'll see. I think this game is going to – I think we're going to win this game. But we just have to control Mac and, the other defenders Bears have. But it should really be a good one. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, Nick, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us. And, that's pretty much going to do it for this episode. If you guys are Seahawks fans or not, it doesn't really matter. Go follow Nick. If you're an NFL fan, go follow Nick. He posts some great stuff on his Instagram. He's told me before this started he's been doing his fan page on the Seahawks for about 3 or 4 years. Over 1,800 posts and over 3,000 followers on Instagram. He posts some good content. So if you're an NFL fan and you just want to kind of keep a tab on everyone in the league, you can definitely keep a tab on the Seahawks through following him. So make sure to give him a follow. It's at Seahawks Network _12. I'll leave that in the description as well. But I think that's pretty much going to do it. If you guys did enjoy this episode of Inside Enemy Territory, please make sure to smash a like on it and subscribe to the channel. And that's pretty much it. Bear down, Chicago. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Peace. Go Hawks.